Hey, this is Malia Hosaka, and you are listening to the RockStop with Chris Contra.
All right, welcome into the RockStop. Chris Contra here. My guest tonight is a very prominent figure in women's wrestling. She's wrestled for pretty much every major promotion, many indie promotions as well. This is Malia Hosaka. How's it going, Malia?
It's good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, definitely. Glad to have you here. So I'm wondering, your love of wrestling, did you love the sport for a long time before you started partaking in it? No?
No, I hated the sport. I didn't even think of it as a sport, to be honest. But I hated wrestling. My dad was the fan of it. He was the one that, he watched it every Saturday, and I would just like, I don't want to watch this. I want to watch the Smurfs. But, but back then we only had one TV in the house, and Dad gets watch what Dad wants because, Dad pays the bills.
Yeah.
And, so we would watch wrestling, and I saw a match between Bugsy McGraw and the Missing Link, and it was so ridiculous. And I'm like, really, Dad? Anybody could do this. And he's like, well, I bet you couldn't. And that, of course, you tell a teenager that. And what do they set out to do? Prove you wrong.
Yeah.
So, there I go.
So
and
that...
then, started traveling and getting paid to travel all over the world. And that's when I fell in love with the art of what is wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your dad sort of sparked a fire in you that you didn't even really know that you had.
Yeah, he sparked a fire in me, but I still won't say that I am a wrestling fan because, in all sincerity, I will not sit and watch a wrestling match. If you are entertaining, I will watch it. But if you cannot suck me in the way the old school guys knew how to do it, I won't watch it because I'm not into. I might sit there and go, "Oh, that was cool. That was awesome." But if all you're going to do is high spots and not tell a story,
right,
then I could care less. Like, anybody can do that. You can train monkeys to be acrobats. There is an art to actually getting in the ring and telling that story and making the fans forget who you are out there and to start believing in your character so much that they become involved and they suspend reality. Like, you don't go to the movies and sit there and pick every single aspect of it apart. If you do, you're pretty much a jackass. But, when you go to a movie and you watch your favorite actor, you don't sit there and think of them as that person. You think of them as that character that they're playing at that point in time.
Exactly.
And that's what I try to do. Like, I like that art. I like sucking you in. And, if my job is to make you hate me, I don't want you cheering me. I will do everything in my power to make you not cheer me.
Right.
And that's something that has been really lost today is not only, I guess, the selling of moves, but the selling of your character as being vulnerable as a babyface, being able to actually be beaten and then fighting back from, because you reached down in you and you got that last strength. And, there's an art to it that is it's overlooked. And I guess I've been told that it just doesn't apply to today's wrestling. And so, I'm not a fan of today's wrestling.
Yeah. The wrestling industry, I mean, the business of wrestling, you're right, it's an entertainment. It's in the entertainment world, but it's really like nothing else because you have to tell a story like an actor or actress would, but you also have to be incredibly physical. You have to deal with instant reaction from the crowd. So it encompasses all of these different fields of entertaining.
It does, but I mean, it's a lot of, with the art of it, there's a lot of improv in there.
Yeah.
And I guess, and that's actually something that just came to my mind when you said, a lot of, acting in there. Yeah. It's being able to be almost like an improv actor and reacting to the crowd. If you choreograph in everything from A to Z and how you're going to do it, and you have to do it in this order because that's the way you have it planned, then you're so worried about what's coming next that you don't do anything to suck the fans in.
Right. If
the fans are cheering or booing, it's because they're conditioned to do that, not because you are making them do that.
Yeah.
And, and so and if they're sitting there, like, and you go to tease something and they want to see it, like, Ric Flair in his figure 4, if they start chanting figure 4, he might tease it a few times, but then he was going to give it to them and reward them for it.
Yeah.
But today's wrestlers can't do that because, oh, wait, we didn't choreograph that in there, so we can't do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Next time. We'll get you next time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it does seem just very, very scripted. I mean, in every way possible, you got to be able to improvise throughout a match. And I've seen that. And what I would notice is when a move was botched or something, and the match was like supposed to end on that move, the true talented wrestlers would be able to improvise a different ending because that thing didn't work or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, you never realize that it was supposed to be the other.
Exactly.
You don't most of the time I come back and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry we screwed this up. But we're the only ones that know that it was screwed up.
Yeah.
Nobody else knows that unless it was blatant, like, hey, I was supposed to jump off the top rope and instead I, fell and didn't. But, or, like when I first started and I was throwing kicks and I'm not supposed to fall too. And I was so awkward, like a newborn gazelle, I'd throw my kick and I'd actually fall before my opponent would. But, but yeah, it's just, like I said, I really enjoy the art of wrestling. I enjoy that storyline and that character. And one of the best moments of my career was when I was working for Harley Race and I was a babyface and his granddaughter made it to the top step of the ring because she was coming to make a save, and she made it up there before security caught her. But it's when you have things like that. Now, granted, it was a kid, but when you can suck people into that point, that's when you have the art. That's when you have them in your hand, and you have suspended that reality and entertained them and left them with something.
Yes, very, very true indeed. And you were mentioning this generation, this current generation, whether it's men's wrestling, women's wrestling, I'm not sure we're seeing a lot of that, truly. It does seem like the crowds are just, they're engaged in a different way, I guess, than they were back in the day.
Well, I think they're engaged in the fact that when you hit something really awesome or you do 70,000 high spots and they just keep growing and growing, they start, the chant of "this is awesome" or, "holy shit," and that's what people aspire to now, rather than, like your heels. They don't want to be hated. They want the pops. They want the people to go, "Oh my God, you're awesome." I don't want you to do that. I want you to come up to me and tell me I sucked and I deserve to get my ass kicked, and that's what I'm out there to do.
Yeah.
And I want, and I want the babyface to be over. I want the, yes, it sucks when you're a heel and everybody hates you because, no, your merchandise sucks, okay? You don't, especially on indies. If you're relying on your merch to help pay some of your bills or your gas money or whatever, no, it's going to suck. But as a babyface, I want everybody to come over with that person, as a heel, show me that babyface picture and be like, she's the best. And I'm like, yeah, great, but, I'm not going to tell you that to your face. I'm like, she's not, she sucks. I'm the one with the belt.
Yeah, exactly.
And when people, and yes, it hurts. When fans get on, keyboard warriors are brutal. Yeah. And when fans are on there and they're telling me I'm an old has-been and I should hang it up and I'm jealous of all the rookies and, some of the stuff, it's an entertainment industry. I'm older. It's not my generation. It is hard to give up. It's hard to walk away from when you have a love and a passion for it. So, sometimes when I read those comments, they hurt. And I have to realize, no, that's my job. My job is to make them say those things. But it doesn't make it easier. And I think that with a lot of my veterans, that was a really hard point, because when I started coming up and when my generation started coming in and the fans would tell them things like that, it went to their heart, and they viewed us more as competition versus the fact that they were doing their job so well that, fans were actually hating them.
Right.
And so especially on the women's aspect, when you start talking about your looks and, then we were going through the Diva era and the TNA and all of that. And so it was all about your marketability and not your talent. And so when you start getting told, oh no, you look old, then you want to run out and get Botox or get this lifted or get that sucked or this tucked, and it can be brutal on your self-image. And even today, like I look at these girls and I think they're amazing, and I go, did I ever look like that? Was I ever that fit? Was I ever that marketable? Was I ever, and it can be it's very, very hard on your self-esteem. And if you buy into it, you can get destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, speaking from a fan's perspective, I'd say you absolutely were.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It is, as you get older, and I think in life in general, as you get older and you see the younger generation coming up, it's harder to give way and allow them their space and their freedoms. And today's society is such an instant gratification type of a society. Would today's fans, if you could keep it, you'd have to keep it totally so that everyone, including everyone in the locker room, believed it. If you could do that type of a work, could you drag out a storyline like they used to?
Yeah.
Could you drag it out for a month, 2 months, until it finally capitulated to that point of those two people facing off and giving you that ultimate satisfaction of the match and ending to that story?
Mm-hmm.
Because with the internet, as soon as you do it, it's all over. So, like, if you're taping 6 weeks out, your whole story, your whole 6 weeks is on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there. There are no surprises.
Yeah.
And then you have, the heels and the faces running around taking pictures together.
Yeah.
And here we're on, we're Instagramming. We're out to dinner before our show. We're here. We're there.
Yeah. It's true. And I mean, I think that's, I personally, I hate that. I don't like that end of it at all, because it does take you out of the whole, I mean, of course, everybody knows that it's an act, but you still want to stay within it. It's just like you were saying earlier about movies and things. You want to lose yourself within the movie, as you do in the storyline. Yeah.
Right. And when I go to watch a match and all of a sudden it pops up that you're Snapchatting or Instagramming and you're together, it takes away from that,
Yeah.
And especially if you're trying to do some huge feud and we're supposed to hate each other, but here we are out having sushi together,
Yeah, right.
I would be really curious if it could be pulled off, because one leak would be all it would take for it to be all over the internet. But if somebody could actually pull that off, how long could you hold the fans' interest? How much could you actually build that to before you had to give it to them?
Yeah.
Would it just be a couple weeks? Could you drag it to a month?
Yeah.
Could you drag it? Could you take it to a pay-per-view and even still drag it back out for another month to another pay-per-view? So you didn't necessarily give them exactly what they wanted on that first pay-per-view.
Right. Yeah.
So, but it would take some very committed people to do it, and they would probably have to really, like, with their friends, make their friends believe it. And I don't know if there's anybody out there that could do it, or any promoter out there that would even try to do it.
Yeah.
So,
this you're mentioning the current scene of women's wrestling, where it is now. We're past the divas, I think, pretty much. Yeah. We're past all that stuff. It's kind of it's kind of got this whole new resurgence going on right now. Women's evolution they're talking about and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Again, I don't have. I think it's great that it's coming back around to actual wrestling. Mm-hmm. But the women, again, they're doing the same thing that the men are. It's all high spots. It's no true stories, no true heat, no true babyface. I can't say specifically, of any one match that's great or any one match that's not great, because, again, I don't watch it, because if you're not entertaining me, I'm changing the channel.
Yeah.
But I also think it's funny that, 20 years ago, the top guys, they were enjoying that Diva era. They loved having that tits and ass going, and they loved having them skimpy outfits and watching them roll around and pudding matches and evening gown matches and bra and panty matches. And here we are 20 years later, and some of their daughters are the ones out there doing that.
That is true, yeah.
But, hey, we don't want to have divas out there anymore. We want wrestlers. We don't want girls doing evening gown and bra and panty matches.
Yeah.
We want wrestlers.
That's right.
Well, fuck, it was 20 years ago. It was okay. Now that it's your kid, it's not okay. I got news for you. I don't think my dad wanted to watch me do it 20 years ago.
Yeah. It caught up with him.
I don't think my dad would have been okay with it either.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, they didn't think about it at the time, but now here it is, and it's very true.
I think they're just fortunate that they were their daughter, probably their daughter's, people that they looked to. It was the men that they were probably watching and looking to, not necessarily the women, because, I mean, seriously, there were only a handful of girls that were really talented, and the majority of them weren't allowed to really show that talent.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it couldn't have been the girls that they were really looking to.
Right.
You know.
Do you think many from that Diva era? I mean, you know, they started as eye candy, of course, but do you think there were any in there that actually became kind of legit?
Well, I mean, you had your legit girls in there carrying those girls, like Luna Vachon.
Right.
Luna carried Sable.
Yeah.
Sable couldn't wrestle. Luna did everything for her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Lita was talented.
Yeah.
As well as Molly Holly, as much as that pains me to say. You know, they were talented wrestlers. And Trish Stratus, she, you know, coming from a fitness industry, she really went in there and tried to learn moves and do matches and things like that. But you still had the Cats and the Sables and, you know, was it Marlena and...
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I love Deborah to death, but Deborah McMichael, you still had her out there,
right?
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're letting your managers, who are supposed to be the eye candy, get in the ring and roll around and everything, then your whole women's division isn't credible.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, as valets, like, you know, they a lot of them start as valets. You know, they could get involved in the storylines, of course, but when they start trying to wrestle and things, it's very noticeable that they don't have the skill.
Right. You know, I mean, at the most back in the day, valets might, then they might do a cat fight, or especially valet versus valet match. But they get in there and they would start literally cat fighting, rolling around, and they would get broken apart, and they didn't try to wrestle, you know.
Yeah.
But there was never a valet versus valet thing. But now your valets are wrestlers, your wrestlers are valets, and you know, there's no, it's like, hey, we can pay you to do both jobs, so we're not going to hire two people to do it.
Yeah.
So you're going to be the tits and ass, and you're going to be the wrestler. So, you know, and I love a lot of the looks of the girls today, but they're also all kind of the same.
I've noticed
none of them have normal hair color. They're all over the top, Hollywood looking, or I don't even know how to glamour, or you know, it's.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know, I don't really. Yeah, I know you know what I'm talking. I don't know how to explain it though, but I look at them and I'm like, they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start looking at the indie girls, and I'm like, and you're all copying them. Okay, they already have them. Why are you copying them?
Yeah.
You got to find something they don't have.
Right.
And that's the same with the guys. I mean, if you see the guys dressing the same and doing the same moves, well, they've already got it.
Yeah.
You've got to do something to stand out and to catch their eye. Otherwise, you're a dime a dozen.
No, I completely agree, and I'm not sure why. You know, I mean, a lot of that stuff, they're still getting huge ratings and things, but you're right. There's not that characters.
What are they going to?
Yeah, go ahead.
What ratings are you going to compare it to, though?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, huge ratings because it's wrestling. Well, it's the only show in town.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to watch a major wrestling company that's on TV, that's a national or worldwide company, you have one to choose from.
Yeah. And that's no good. I mean, you like competition. Competition creates better everything. And right, there's really no competition right now.
No, there's not. I mean, TNA tried it.
Yeah, TNA tried.
But yeah, it just and you can't have like, okay, well, we're going to branch off and have ECW again because they're still a subsidiary. So they will never ever have two companies out there competing on the same night for ratings because all you're doing is taking away from the other.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have that competition, you just have that monopoly. It doesn't matter. Like you can put it on 7 nights a week, and you call it different names. But anybody that wants to watch wrestling on that night is going to tune into it because it's the only wrestling program on.
Right.
As opposed to when you had Raw and Nitro going head to head.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I mean, for a while there, it looked like WCW was going to overtake them, and then I don't know what happened. It went down so fast, I couldn't believe it.
I heard that they did something that really pissed Vince off. Like at the point that I can't remember what the whole story was, but but basically they said something or they did something on WCW that lit a fire. It just like rubbed him completely the wrong way. And he's like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to show you, you know, just how powerful I can be. And he turned around and he did it, you know?
He took the gloves off.
Yeah, I mean, you don't poke the snake unless you want to get bit. So, I mean, they went around poking the snake, and you know.
Yeah.
But I think that when WCW was being sold, I would have, you know, again with the internet, you would have had to keep it completely kayfabed, which would have been hard to do. But I think Shane McMahon should have come out as the owner of it, like had a huge blow up with his father.
Yeah.
Screw you! I'm going to get my own company. I'm going to do things my own way.
Yeah.
Bought WCW, continue to go head to head. And act like a father versus son type of a thing.
Right.
And then when they finally ran that path as far as it could go, okay, great. You know, you did it. You made as much money from it as you could.
Mm-hmm. And
now you integrate the two. We make up, and we're going to integrate the two, and it's just one company again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it just, yeah. I also wanted to be the Dudley sister, another great idea that went down the tubes. So, you know.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Did you pitch that idea?
I did, but the person I pitched it to, I think I had pissed off or whatever. And anyways, it wound up being the Holly sister. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, you had that was when you were with WWF or E, whatever you want to call it at the time.
Yeah. To me, it's still the Fed. It's still WWF. It'll always be WWF.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I always end up calling it. But I remember you had a brief time there where you came out as a fan to challenge Ivory,
right?
And I remember that Nicole Bass was there as a whole thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I had fun and I enjoyed it. And then 5 minutes after I did it, it was all over the internet who I was.
Yeah.
And so that whole storyline got scrapped because, of course, you can't be a fan turned wrestler turned champion challenger type person.
Yeah.
If you've already been wrestling for 13 years.
Yeah.
But
that's too bad though. I mean that to no fault of your own. I mean that was, you know, they brought you in to do that role, and I really think
that was actually kind of more of a tryout type thing. I got brought in, I did that, and they had that idea, but I wasn't under contract yet. It was a few months later that they put me under contract, and they were going to name me Aphrodisia and bring me in and have me manage Papi Chulo. The week that I got brought in for it, Papi got held up in customs or something in Mexico and didn't make it in. And then the next week, Terry Taylor's the one that got me hired. He quit and had left. And so they sent me home. And then shortly after that, probably within a month or two after that, they decided Lita had a better look for it. And it probably was. I don't think I would have fit that. Don't think anybody would have ever looked at me and believed I was like some gangster Mexican type, you know, hoodlum thing. I've never had that look. So, you know, I've heard that she thinks I'm bitter about it. I'm not. I think she got a great run as Lita, and she had a role that if it wouldn't have worked with me, it would have been like trying to sell an apple as an orange. I would have done it. I would have done the best I could with it.
Right.
But I don't think it would have went nearly as far as what it wound up going with her. You know, so that was, I got sent home and I basically rode my contract out for the year from that.
Do you think it was because at that time the WWF just did not have a strong women's division? I mean, you know, you came out, you challenged Ivory. They had Ivory. They had, you know, Lita was kind of breaking in, but they had
Ivory. They had Lita. They didn't have a super strong women's division, but they did have a women's division. I think it was more the fact that one, the person who pushed for me to get in was no longer there. So politics.
Yeah.
And then two, they called me up and wanted me to go to Tennessee to work for Lawler, and were not offering me any more money to do it. And at the time I was working for Harley Race, and I was making good money on the indies, and I'm like, well, are you going to subsidize? I mean, basically you're asking me to pick up my life in Florida and move it to Tennessee. And at the time I was married, so I would have had to, you know, either be estranged from my husband or ask my husband to quit his life and move to Tennessee as well. And he wasn't in the business. And no, they were just like, no, you're just going to go out there and work on a character. And I'm like, well, what character am I going to work on? And they're like, well, right now, Malia. I'm like, well, I've been doing that for 13 years. I know who that is.
Yeah.
I don't need to work on that. But I told them if they could give me a good reason, or if they wanted to pay me more to go to Tennessee and wrestle, I could do that. But they were basically asking me to take around a $1,500 a week pay cut to go there to work. And I'm like, in what world does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a ring 5 days a week, either training or actually having an active show.
Right.
So what do you need from me?
Yeah.
I mean, if it, so that was kind of strike two. Another strike in there was the fact that I had the audacity to give China some constructive criticism.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then, so it was kind of a series of events of a lot of politics. And like I said, and then I got sent home, and I pitched the Dudley sister thing when the Dudley boys came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then a week or 2 weeks after I pitched that, all of a sudden they told me I was going to be released, and they were hiring Nora Greenwald to be Molly Holly. And they were going to go with the Holly sister.
And that was that.
And that was that. I think the Dudley sister would have been way more cool, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah, that's, I mean, it just wasn't the right time, I guess.
No.
For that, but
I'm always a day late, a dollar short. I either 20 years too late for the era or 20 years too early for the era. I don't know.
Well, in spite of all that, you still have put together a very fine career for yourself, and you're known. I mean, people do know Malia Hosaka.
If you were a wrestling fan 20 years ago, because I've actually sat in locker rooms and had girls go, "Who's Malia?"
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah,
I've actually ridden in a car with a guy who was taking me to a show, and he asked me what my goals in wrestling were. If I ever thought I would try to make it big.
Oh.
So it's all relative.
Yeah, it's all relative.
No, I'm not really known today. A lot of people don't have a clue who I am. A lot of I think I go into a lot of locker rooms for the first time, and people are like, "Why is she such a big shot?" But yeah.
I mean, is that annoying that like these new girls or guys or whoever, like they don't know the history of wrestling? I mean, they should know that.
Yes, it's very annoying that. Well, I mean, first off, okay, even if I don't watch any of her matches, when I find out who I'm working, I will Google who it is, so I at least have an idea of what she looks like.
Right.
Okay. Most of the time, I know the girls I work against because I'm very particular anymore. So I can't afford to go out and get hurt. I have a real job, and I can't work my real job if I'm hurt.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm not in it to go to the Fed. I've been there. I've done that. It's not my era. As much as I would love to be a part of this era, it's not my era. So I'm just out there to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm out there to do what I enjoy doing and what my veterans taught me to do. And so I'm very picky about who I will and will not work with. Like there have been times where I've told people, no, I can't make the show because I didn't want to work with who they were wanting me to work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't interest me. Or if it's just something that, I'll throw a really high figure out at them, and that way, at least if they offer it, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we make that for the night.
That's a good idea. Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was just going to say, speaking of your, matches, people you've worked with, a lot of the veterans that you looked up to, and things like that. Did you have a dream match that you wish you could have? I mean, if you had to pick any dream match in your career that you would have liked to square off against, or never got the chance to?
Honestly, the one time Stephanie McMahon was in the ring, I would have loved to have been the girl in there with her.
Yeah.
Nothing against Lita, but I know my capabilities, and I just really think that it could have looked a lot better than it did.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there really, there's like, I wouldn't mind getting in the ring with Charlotte Flair today, or even Ronda Rousey, even though I was not I shouldn't say a huge fan. I wasn't a fan of hers at all for her Ultimate Fighting or MMA or whatever.
Yeah.
But I may watch a match and may go, that sucked, but I won't really judge a girl until I've worked with them, because it takes two to have a match.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm capable of. And so if I can't get out there and have a match with you, it's because you're not listening, or because you're not trained, or something. It's not that's not really my ego. I know it sounds egotistical, but that's not really my ego talking. It's because I have taken somebody who has never stepped in a ring before and made it look like she's beating the hell out of me. I'm capable of doing that. I know that I'm capable of putting somebody over and making them look like they're capable of doing more than what they do.
Yeah.
So again, I won't judge somebody until I'm actually in a ring with them and I know, that, and then I'm like, yeah, you just really suck because you can't pick up on any friggin' clue that's out there nor listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think I really, throughout my career, I had a match with pretty much every person that, especially veteran-wise, that was out there. Maybe Mula. I never had a match with Mula. 50% of me is like, oh man, I would have loved to share the ring with her just to say I was in the ring with her.
Yeah.
50% of me is like, you'd have been so green, she'd have stretched you, left you laying there. You better be thankful you were never in the ring with her.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more that there's companies I wish I could work for. There's companies I wish would call me and just give me an opportunity. But no, it's, I've had a really great career and I'm happy with where I'm at in life.
Yeah.
So, and plus, I mean, I've been fired by just about every women's company out there.
Really?
Well, Shimmer won't use me anymore because I had an opinion. Shine won't use me anymore because I had an opinion.
That's no good.
I'm pretty sure Queens of Combat's not using me because, oh yeah, I had an opinion.
Yeah.
I was told from another that I don't have a storyline, and that's why I can't be there because they're all about storylines.
Oh.
I was told that I don't have a look, and they're trying to establish a specific look for their women before I come in. And I'm like, is the look that your girls can't work? Because I don't know that I'm ever going to fit that. But, I just, no.
Yeah.
I feel like, somebody actually suggested I should get a shirt, and be like, have companies on it, and just, yep, check, crossed out. Yep, check, crossed out.
Would you say your time in WCW was your most, that was your most attention you got in wrestling?
It probably gave me the most notoriety. It because I was on some very top-rated nitros at the time, and so a lot of people got to see who I was out there. But it wasn't a happy time in my career. Like, I did it because I had hoped that things would go differently. But I think I was also just, I don't rock the boat. I come in and I do a job.
Yeah.
So I was just the girl that they called. I was just, I don't know. So I was fortunate that I was the girl that they called, but, I put my deuce over 10 times the same way.
Yeah.
They had zero beat me in literally 3 seconds.
Yeah.
My only saving grace on that squash was the fact that they all thought she was a man.
Right.
But no, I mean, it's definitely the reason why I did get any type of name recognition out there on a worldwide basis, I think. I did have some from LPWA, but not in the mainstream on the in the U.S. so much, because I think LPWA was really bigger overseas than it was in the U.S. But at that time, yeah, I can definitely credit WCW for me actually having any type of, I guess, name value where people would agree. They didn't balk at me when I say, okay, I want this much in airfare and hotel, and okay, no problem.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I was actually viewed on the shows as a name, and I was treated the same as the names on the show.
Yeah.
Versus, in recent times lately, I come in and I'm treated like I'm local talent, or I'm somebody just trying to make my way up the ranks, and not a name.
Yeah.
When they have another name on the show, and they treat that person like they're, a name. And I'm like, wait a minute, we started together.
Yeah, that sucks.
I got just as much time as he does.
Right. Oh man, and during your time at WCW, I mean, it was probably the biggest WCW ever was. I mean,
it was.
Yeah.
I was fortunate in that I was on with WCW, and the opportunities that I had with them were when they were really on top of it. They were, everybody was tuning into them, and they weren't so much tuning into Vince.
Right.
It was shortly after that when I guess they pissed Vince off and it went downhill. But
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It seems like to me the story went like, I think Eric Bischoff made a comment about he was going to put Vince McMahon out of business, or maybe Vince Russo. I don't remember who said it. But somebody said something like that, and it just, and they were like, "Oh no, you're not."
Yeah, right. I mean, Bischoff was getting like just power crazy, like he was dominating wrestling, and I was like, it was crazy. But I just want to circle back with you for a minute about like growing up. Were you did you like other sports? Were you very?
I played softball.
Yeah.
No, I won't say I was very athletic. I was very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But I played softball. I was a catcher, little league, high school, varsity, all that. But yeah, that was really the only sport I ever played. I was just lucky that I was fast and little, and I fit the, fit the bill of what they needed. But
right.
And the town that I grew up in, there wasn't a lot of like, girls could play basketball, they could play volleyball, they could play softball. That's really all we had.
Yeah.
You didn't get to play anything else. So.
Those were it.
Yeah.
For people who may not know, I mean, how would you classify your wrestling style in the ring? There's
lazy.
High fly.
No. I don't know. I guess anymore, like today, it would be old school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old school style. I'm about, like I said, I'm about the art. But I mean, I'm not a high flyer anymore because I'm too much of a fat ass. And I'm too old, and I break easy because I'm an antique. But so.
But you were. I mean, you used to. I mean, you were a high flyer.
Yeah,
for a time,
I mean, like when I was the baby face and I was, coming up, I was little. I was a high flyer, and the girls were usually bigger, so they were good bases, and I was doing some of the stuff that the girls today do like 17 times in a match, but it was something that girls didn't do back then, so it was unique. And so today I'm just old school. Like, I mean, I enjoy the stories. Like, as a heel, I don't really wrestle a whole lot. I cheat a lot. I try to let the baby faces do their spots, but I try to make the spots make sense when they want to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm more of the base now. I'm just the ring general, and trying to just pass on a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah.
But now I don't know. I am lazy though. I'm like, you bumped me enough. Grab a hold, work the leg. I'm not getting up.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Like submission moves, for example. Like you talk about old school wrestling and submission moves. I mean, is that sort of a lost art to make submission moves entertaining and to really get the crowd engaged in like something like that? That a submission move that might go on for a little while.
And in order to work a submission move and get the crowd into it, you have to know how to work the crowd.
Yeah.
And in order to work the crowd, you have to know how to work a match. And in order to work a match, you can't plan A to Z.
Right. Exactly.
So so again, it's kind of a lost art. And I think with MMA and UFC becoming so popular that submission moves anymore, like the selling of them, unless you can sell it believably, which I've yet to see, it's hard for even wrestling fans to buy into it because they know that, freaking Ken tapped on that move last week when he was on this UFC match, doing whatever. Or, so I think it's a lot harder now with that type of a thing. And then you also, like I said, you have to know how to work the crowd. If you don't know how to work the submission and don't know how to work a crowd, then it's hard. But a lot of the newer generation doesn't understand that those submission moves were simply spots for us to grab our breath.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't really work for me because I constantly yell, so I'm constantly blown up. But it was just, it was a way of, sucking the crowd in, but it was also, okay, let's take it easy for a second so that we can build and run this next spot and have the stamina to do it and not screw it up and not injure either one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's another thing that's lost is how to protect one another.
Yeah.
Or to actually want to protect one another. A lot of people just don't have respect for their opponent's bodies, or and the abuse that it goes under.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, a lot of people, they look at wrestling and they say, well, it's entertainment. It's not. But man, you guys deal with the big time pain, I imagine, on during post match, all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot that people don't realize.
The older you get, of course, the more you feel it, because that's just getting old and it sucks. But if something goes wrong, you feel it, and I think it's a little bit better today because of concussion syndrome has come out, and the fact that it does affect the wrestlers because of taking the chair shots and taking the bumps and doing the things that we do in the ring. It does wear and tear on our bodies a lot more. So I think there are a lot of precautions being put into place for the training and learning and just getting the moves down so that you're not injuring yourself trying to learn.
Yeah.
Where, before when I was trying to learn how to do a backdrop, I landed on my head all the time. But, that's just the way it was. It was get your ass in the air or, land on your head.
Right.
But anyways, I'm not even really sure where I was going with that ramble, but
well, yeah, just talking about, pain and all that kind of stuff.
So I mean, you feel it, and these young kids that are doing all these flip and flop and shit, wait till they got 20 years in the business. They're gonna be like, what the hell was I thinking?
I mean, you look at like extreme wrestling, the ECW, like how, cracking themselves over the head, just very extreme stuff, and I can imagine what kind of physical ramifications those guys may,
Well, yeah, I mean, you go back to the old days when somebody went to throw a chair at you, you put your hands up.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, you don't put your hands up, everybody knows you're blocking it then. Well, I mean, all right, asshole, if I'm in a bar fight and somebody goes to throw a chair at me, I'm putting my hands up, okay? I'm not going to feed them my damn head. But
very true.
Beyond that, but beyond that, I can only imagine, like, where are their brains at? Where, what type of damage do they have going on in their minds? Or are we going to see more, what is it, the freaking out? And I don't want to classify and bring up the whole Chris Benoit thing because I love Chris, but that was part of it. He had concussion syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's not an excuse for what he did, you look at the football players that have freaked out and hurt their families.
Yeah. Before
they found out what was going on.
Yeah. So I mean, Chris Benoit that you knew, I mean, he wasn't, he was totally normal, cool dude, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I never, everybody's like, oh, roid rage. I'm like, I never once saw Chris Benoit have roid rage.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I'm sure he could have had it. Maybe it's just not somebody that I ever saw.
Right.
It's not the person that I knew.
Yeah. When the media got a hold of that story and it was just roid rage and steroids and all this, and I was like, there's something way bigger going on here, and and I mean, they totally seem to miss the mark on that.
Absolutely, 100%. But it just was one of those that I was just. It was so sad.
Yeah.
But I do know that, they did have his brain examined and that was part of it. And I think about people like Sandman and Sabu and, oh God, who else is out there that was all part of ECW, and they did that stuff. Like, garbage fans, bring whatever you want and we're going to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hardcore, and I think it was just probably going a little too far at times. But
right,
yeah, you just hope that nothing too horrifying happens from all of that.
Right,
as in
exactly.
Benoit case.
Nothing comes out later that's horrifying and somebody killing somebody, or I just.
Did you?
I don't want to hear about them just losing their mind in general, and thinking like almost schizophrenia type thing. Right. I don't want to hear about that either.
Definitely, yeah. Did you know Nancy much?
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know her. I knew who she was. We'd shared locker rooms together. I've spoke with her. We were always civil with each other.
Yeah.
but it's not somebody that I would say was a friend, or somebody that I could say that I would, have sat down outside of wrestling with.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting during that era when they had, I think she was a valet for Ric Flair, her and Miss Elizabeth, I think, and they were both valets. And it was always weird to me that Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth got back together in the valet wrestler type of deal. That was kind of weird.
It was a little weird, but at the same time, it's about money, right?
Yeah, right.
It is business, and it's all about what's going to make you money.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, we were talking a minute ago about how the media covers wrestling and how they could totally miss the mark, and they seem to a lot of the time. Mainstream media, when they when a tragedy happens, whether it be the Benoit thing or Owen Hart. You actually got in the WWF not long after the Owen Hart situation, right?
Yes. It was a couple of years after it, though, I think.
Oh, was it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because I know, I'm trying to think, because Ivory was there.
Yeah.
So.
I was just remembering because I remember Nicole Bass being there with you, and I think she had the match like right after the Owen Hart thing because the event went on afterwards. And I always thought, she was there. So I figured it was around the same time, or close to.
Yeah, close to. Yeah. It might have been. Honestly, it could have been. It's, again, I'm lucky to remember what city I'm in right now versus what I did 20 years ago and who was there. And I kept to myself a lot. It's not that I was a snob or or anything like that. Just in my real personality, like, outside of wrestling, I'm very, very introverted and shy. I don't talk to a lot of people. I don't, go, like, if you come up and speak to me, I'll talk to you. But in general, I don't go out of my way to talk to people. I don't seek out conversations and socialization. And I'm very socially awkward. Like, if you take me to a crowd or a group, I'm just the quiet, awkward person there. And I can be with, like, my best friends. I can be like somebody I don't stop talking to on a daily basis when we're together, and then you put in another friend, and all of a sudden I'm the quiet one. I just got, it's like, I don't know how to interject or relate, so I'm just going to sit here quietly.
Yeah. So when you get in the ring, I mean, you have really let loose.
Yeah, I mean, that's a different side of me. That's when I get out to the ring, and even in the locker room, I'm way more talkative in the locker room than I am out in everyday life. And even like at the picture table, like, I don't get people to come up to talk. I'm like, hey, come over here. I just stand there. If you come talk to me, great. I'll talk to you, and I'll try to sell you a picture or a T-shirt. But I'm not gonna. I'm not good. I'm very socially awkward.
Do you? What are some of your pre-match rituals? Do you have any of that, or do you don't really care?
Yeah, I have a prayer. I say a prayer before every match, asking God, to just be with me and to keep us all safe. And but yeah, that's pretty much it. I just before I go to the ring every time, I just pray for safety. Go out there and do my best and to entertain the people the way He has blessed me to be able to do, and to come back out of it safe and sound.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. So, but other than that, no, not a lot. Take my hair down out of the knot I probably have it tied up in, shake it out a bit.
Yeah. Do you still feel any, like, nerves before you go out there? Or?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I always want to do my best. I always want to go out there and entertain. And and the thing is, like, I'll come back and be like, how was it? And I'm really looking for feedback. And I'll be like, oh, you're great. You're great. No, I'm not. I want feedback here.
Yeah.
I'm old. I'm slower. I'm,
looking for an honest review. Yeah.
I screw up. And I'm not a high flyer, nor am I a power person. So, help me here. But yeah.
So, all right. Well, if you just got to, like, sum it up, babyface versus heel, what do you prefer?
Heel all the way.
Yeah.
The only time I can honestly say in the recent history that I enjoy being a babyface is when I'm in the ring against Stormy Lee, because she actually is a fun heel to play off of. She's green. She's upcoming. I don't know if she'll ever really be given the opportunity that she deserves because she doesn't fit the look. But her character, she really knows, and she's working on it and growing. And because of the type of heel that she plays, it's easy for me to go out there and be a believable babyface.
Yeah.
But other than that, now heel, 100% heel. Like I've worked at Steel Domain, a great example. I love Steel Domain. I carry their belt there. They have tried to make me a baby face. They're like, go out there and be the face. And I'm like, I'm going to go out there and be the heel.
Yeah.
Even against girls like Stacey Shadows. I think, she's a bigger girl and she's a tough girl and she's typically a heel, and we can go out and have some great knockdown drag outs like Luna Vachon and I used to do.
Yeah.
But and in that case, a lot of times I am the babyface because, simply because she's a good heel. But it's not like I'm out there going, I'm a babyface and I'm going to sell for you. I'm out there being just as nasty as she is.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Speaking of Luna Vachon, she was intense. I mean, she was an intense performer, definitely. How was she as out of character and stuff?
She was the sweetest person. Had the biggest heart.
Yeah.
She was my wrestling mom. She took me under her wing. I remember the first time I ever met her, and I watched because, like I said, my dad was a fan of it. I remember her getting her head shaved and watching it on TV, and her becoming Luna Vachon.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever met her, she stuck her head around the corner and she growled. And I was like, oh, God, I'm going to die today. I'm going to die today. Because this is like maybe my third or fourth match ever in my career.
Wow.
And she literally skipped across the locker room floor and put her hand out. She goes, hi, I'm Angel. I'm like, okay, where's the chick that growled?
Yeah.
I know you growled. And she was super sweet and understanding, and she took me out there, and we had a good match, and I learned a lot being in the ring with her. But, oh, my God, when I heard her go to the ring and she was back to growling and yelling, again, I was like, I'm going to die tonight.
Yeah.
But, Luna would have given the shirt off her back to a homeless person, and she could have been homeless herself. She just had the biggest heart, and she was the biggest sweetheart.
Yeah.
Her death was a definite tragedy that rocked me and broke my heart. So
yeah, she's very much missed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't want to hold you too long. So as we just kind of wind down here, let me just I did want to ask you a little bit about life on the road. I mean, it could be grueling, I imagine.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, when I first started, Penelope Paradise and I drove from Florida all the way up to Nova Scotia and back. We wrestled our way all the way up the coast, and we spent 3 months up there, and I think we wrestled a couple nights coming back, but other than that, we just kind of drove home from there, and then driving out to Tennessee and Arkansas and Louisiana.
And you guys were doing the driving?
Oh, yeah, we were doing the driving. It was, when I started and I was working with her, it was, back then, the girls weren't like they are now, a dime a dozen. They were few and far between, and we all kind of had our territories. And so Florida was pretty much mine, Luna, and Penelope's. And so we always are in a little circle right there. We all kind of worked together. Penelope was a little bit green. She was a couple of years, my veteran by a couple of years. But she had been around the business a lot longer than me. And so, we kind of booked each other, and she got us booked up in Nova Scotia, and I contacted promotions and got us bookings on the way up and things like that. But, yeah, it was, it's hard.
Yeah.
There were nights, when I started, I'd drive 6 hours in one direction for a $50 payday and turn around and drive home.
Wow. Yeah.
And then when you start talking about getting to the big time and working for Vince, back then the guys would be on, Pennsylvania, like Philadelphia on Friday night, fly to California for Saturday night, fly back to I don't know, like maybe Cincinnati for Sunday, and then be expected to be back up in Washington State on Monday. It's like, I'm sorry, what time zone am I in?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's never like, oh, well, you get out of the show at, 12, 1 o'clock, and then your flight's not till 12, 1 o'clock the next afternoon. It's you get out of the show at 12, 1 o'clock, and then your flight's probably at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So you're not getting any sleep, and then you're talking about road life, and if you're a partier, you're going out to the bar for a while, and, it's brutal. It's very brutal. And even if you aren't a partier and a drinker, you still got to eat. So, by the time you get to the hotel and you wind down and you get a shower and you got to open up, apparently I've smelled some of the boys' bags. You don't got to open them up, but you should open up your bag and air your gear out.
Yeah.
By the time you do all that, you lay down for a few hours, then you're back up and at it again.
Wow, yeah.
Or, if they were doing a loop, it was, they would drive. Like, say you get flown into Cincinnati and you're driving, 4 or 5 hours to make a town, and then you go to a hotel and you drive the next day 5, 6 hours to make a town, and you get out and driving will kill you just as much as flying from coast to coast.
Oh yeah.
So
definitely.
and then when you're talking about doing Raw and all that, they have you get there at 11 o'clock in the morning, 12, and the show doesn't start till 9 or 8 or 9. Try sitting around like that doing nothing for a while,
Yeah.
So road life isn't easy. It's not glamour like everybody thinks.
Right. Yeah.
There's some fun, but at the same time, it was some of the best times of my life. I wouldn't go back and trade it for the world, because being on the road and traveling and being with the people that I was with, it was some of the best memories I have.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I miss that camaraderie. I think I missed, as far as like, other than the entertaining, I think I missed that the most, is the camaraderie that you get among the wrestlers that you travel with and you see on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
They become your second family.
Yeah, I mean, so you were pretty close with a lot of those with a lot of the wrestlers. I mean, I'm sure you had some people you don't get along with necessarily, but mostly
Or Greenwald. No, I mean, like, when I was working in Ohio, every week it was Sherry Martel and the Bushwhackers and Greg Valentine and Brian Knobs, and we'd all be in the car together or the van together, driving to the towns.
And what kind of stuff? I mean, just kind of shoot the shit in the van or listen to music?
Shoot the shit, listen to music for a while. A lot of us slept. Because we were in the back, they couldn't do much to us if we were sleeping. But if you were in the passenger seat up there with the driver, no, you weren't allowed to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just you stop, you make decisions about where you want to eat at, and we stop and get some food, and things like that. But
right. Yeah, so, it could be grueling, but it could also be great too. I could totally understand.
It is, yeah.
That. Yeah.
I mean, I traveled with Debbie Combs for a year or two, and she's the one, I blame her, and she knows it, for me being so outspoken and opinionated, because she's taught me how to speak my mind and not be shy about it.
Yeah.
But, she was there for me. Like, if we weren't getting paid, we stood together.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, well, one of us going to be wishy-washy. No, we're staying together. We're backing each other up.
Yeah, that's
cool.
It
wasn't right for one. It wasn't right for both.
Right.
It's hard to find that.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Debbie Combs. I just want to, talking a little earlier about how, this current women's evolution, everybody talking about that and, making a big deal about that. But I think, people forget, like the very first Survivor Series, there was, I think, like a 10 women's tag match there. And, and I mean, women have been a big part of, mainstream wrestling for a long time,
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about an evolution, these girls today aren't reshaping women's wrestling. They're reshaping it from what damage was done over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But they're not reshaping the face of it.
Right.
Women that reshape the face of what women's wrestling could be, Leilani Kai, Judy Martin, and the Jumping Bomb Angels.
Mm-hmm. Nobody
did the stuff that they did then.
Right.
And no other girls could have taken the Jumping Bomb Angels out there and done what they did. It was amazing. And then you got, Debbie Combs, second generation with her mom, Cora Combs, two of the toughest girls in the business.
Yeah.
And, and she made it on her own. She didn't go to Moolah's camp. She wasn't one of Moolah's girls. She went out there and she fought against, Moolah's control and trying to control what she took care of and making her own name and her own bookings in her own right and became her own champion.
Yeah. Right.
There were a lot of really great women who built women's wrestling. It's not an evolution. It's not something new that these girls are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they are repairing the damage that was done over the last 20 years. And the fans that have been watching it for the last 20 years that grew up with it are now seeing something that they never saw before. Because when they grew up with it, it was all divas.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point.
Show me one girl out there. Tell me one girl in today's business that has the talent and the ability that Leilani, Judy, Debbie, Luna, Sherry, that those girls had. Velvet McIntyre.
Yeah.
Penny Banner. I mean, those girls were tough. They knew the art. They knew the business. I mean, they were amazing women, and they're the reason why the girls today have the opportunities that they do.
Yeah.
And, and the sad part is I guarantee that if you polled them, 95% of them would not know who any of those girls were.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's probably true.
Mm-hmm. Because they don't know the history.
Yeah.
They think Sable was a great wrestler. But, I look at these girls and I'm like, they don't have a quarter of the talent that the veterans I had the opportunity to work with had.
Yeah.
And they don't have the talent pool in my generation to learn from today. Like,
right.
I think, I actually don't know if anybody in my generation is still wrestling. I'm trying to think. I was going to say Bambi. I think she still takes a match here or there. But I guess Lexi's not wrestling anymore. She would have been the closest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd really have to do some research on that to see if there's any girls that I started with out there still working.
I'm sure. I'm sure there might be.
I might be the only idiot left. I could be the only idiot still doing it. They all got smart.
Well, you still do it because you have a passion, right? You love to entertain the fans, and
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I love the fans.
Yeah.
As much as I yell and scream at them and tell them I hate them, I do love them.
Right.
They're the reason I had a career. They're the reason I had a job anywhere. Whether it was, and they're the reason I had a career long before WCW or WWF ever knew I even existed.
Yeah.
The only reason they even knew I existed was because of Terry Taylor, and the only reason he knew I existed was because of an indie show that I was on. So, and he happened to be at.
Yeah. I know the feeling's mutual. The fans love you as well, very much.
Oh, thanks.
And just as a kind of a wrap up here, because this is the RockStop, we'll talk a lot of rock music on this show. Now, I know you come out to a Nine Inch Nails song. I don't know if you're a big fan of theirs or you like the song. Are you into
I
rock
just really
music?
like the song.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it says "bow down before the one you serve." Yep. No. I think probably my favorite. I grew up in the. Well, we're not gonna say when I grew up. Everybody knows when I grew up. But the hair bands.
Yeah. I
like Bon Jovi. I like. Oh God. I don't even know who else. I saw Def Leppard in concert. They were awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm a country girl, so rock's not.
Not as much.
My new favorite song though is "Immigrant."
Oh, the Immigrant song.
Yeah. If I ever decide to be a babyface again, that is my music.
Good choice. Definitely a good choice. Well, this has been great talking with you, and I thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. I appreciate your patience with everything. It's been great.
Sure thing.
Again.
So, all right. Take care, okay?
You too. Thanks.
Right. Bye-bye.